Awesome. But cool. I think we had a great talk earlier. And I mean, we touched on a little bit on the local restaurant, like how they can work with creators. I think most people in the space, they think like, oh, D2C brands or the huge brands, obviously they work with influencers, and that's the typical program that we see. So I thought that you could share a little bit how that could look like for like just local, I guess, companies. But to start with, why do you think, in general, like why do you believe in influencer marketing?
Yeah, I think that it's no longer a nice to have, it's a need to have. The way people are really looking, at content, the way people are searching, also generationally speaking, you know, there's a generation that when they're I overheard two talking, and they were probably in their early 20s, 22, and she was sharing her experience about a restaurant, and she immediately opened Instagram. It wasn't a Google, what she wasn't showing even pictures on her own phone. She opened their Instagram, and then she got immediately frustrated because the Instagram didn't have, a really great visual. And she goes, "Ugh, their Instagram isn't that great." Well, they kind of missed the mark because, if they had had some great videos or ways that they had captured, the experience, and that person maybe would have been a new guest at that restaurant.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's how I also explore the new places to go to. But when you then look at these small restaurants, like or in general hospitality, like how do they even work with creators, or how do you set up for them? Like, yeah, what is a typical program for those type of companies?
Yeah, so I think with local restaurants, we get this question a lot where how do we even start? We know it's as part of something that we need to do for our marketing. And I think starting with a plan is always best. So either if you have someone who has worked with influencers before, also using research tools. So Scope is a great tool, obviously. And then also kind of connect with people who maybe aren't, have worked with influencers before. Figure out, where do you want to start? So who would you like to work with? Who's your target demographic? So right now I'm working with a sushi restaurant, and their core demographic is college students, fitness. They have a lot of healthy items on their menu. They also have gluten-free options and also vegan options. So all of those are great categories of influencers to work with. So really defining who are we going to work with, and then starting to figure out, how we're going to reach out to that. So personalization is always best. Coming up with a pitch letter, maybe, sliding into their DMs, as they like to say, and just figure out how do we want to approach them. A lot of influencers have emails right on their bio, or using search tools like Scope is great. We're able to kind of figure out how we can reach out to them. Once we've established a connection, inviting them in. So no pressure. We want to make sure that it doesn't feel really transactional. On the local level, a lot of this is about building community. A lot of local influencers are really interested in highlighting local restaurants. A lot of them believe in the community and want to be part of the community. And so we really want to make sure that is at the forefront of our communication. Once they come in, just making sure that their experience is seamless, ensuring that all the staff knows that someone is visiting, similar to if you had a media visit or a big journalist coming in. You want to make sure that they feel really welcomed, and also that the experience is very similar to what their fans will also experience when they share the content. So you don't want to show anything on the menu that was made just for the influencer and that someone came in and they can't have that menu item. So you want to make sure that the experience is very similar to what their fans are going to experience, but also that it's in a way that feels really personalized, and that they feel very, very welcome once they're on property.
Okay, nice. I've seen a few of those videos where they get even behind the scenes so they can go into the kitchen. Is that is that something to do too? Or yeah, what could be the typical content ideas if you think about that?
Yeah, Sometimes it's great to jump on a call, even with an influencer before they come in. And we kind of, what we call that ideation. So we really want to figure out, when they come in, how do we want them to capture the experience? With food, food is such a great topic because you can do a build, so you can try to build a dish that's really visually compelling, taking them behind the scenes, maybe showing them some insider tips on how a dish is prepared. Think, Food Network or one of the big shows where, you have a star and they go behind the scenes and all of a sudden you're seeing this really great food being prepared before your eyes. So those are exactly the kind of stories that we want to see on social. And they're going to edit it in a really short, fun, captivating way, in 30 seconds or less. So making sure that the scene is set up in a way that's really visually fun. Also thinking about time of day, especially in the local level, you're going to be working with some influencers who might also be starting up. So they might have, 3,000 to 5,000 fans that are local, great demographic to be reaching. But their photography skill, they might still be developing it. So if you think about the time of day and lighting is crucial for the content. So if you have a restaurant that has, big open windows and beautiful natural light, make sure that you're bringing them in during that time. Sometimes night lighting can be challenging for new creators. So you really want to think about, how is the setup going to be when the creator is actually coming in.
Oh, that I would never think about that. And I can imagine maybe a lot of local owners, like, they don't think about that either. Like, I can imagine, like, they're not a content creator themselves. But any other of those kind of tips that you always need to kind of share with these restaurant owners, or yeah?
Yeah, so other kind of tips, are going to be thinking about what menu items you want to highlight. So you can have this play into your marketing campaign. So if you know that, your best seller or your most favorite item is something certain on a menu, you definitely want to make sure that you present that to the creator. Um, so you can help lead the conversation in terms of, what do you want to tell them? What do you want to have them lean into in their content, and also give them some ownership too. So someone might be a huge fan of, for a poke restaurant, spicy salmon's their favorite. Well, of course, give them spicy salmon. But if you know that, we have like these tuna bites and they're absolutely amazing, but they might be, there's a lot of things on the menu. Make sure you bring out the tuna bites because those are things that, you're going to want your fans and their fans to know about.
Hey, I get hungry. But the but one thing I feel like what's like great value for these brands and like companies is obviously getting all the content, because just looking at a menu saying like carbonara or just a pasta, like, you want visuals. Like, it's nice to see all these pictures. But what other things do you think can you expect as a owner if you would run like influence marketing for, like, can you expect sales, or yeah, what are the results that you see that they can expect?
So there was a pizza restaurant that we were working with, and they had a really fun build your own pizza for kids. It was the only thing focused on the menu, which was so fun. Um, Within the next couple of weeks after this was published on the influencers channel, sales went up, I think, 500% of this kid's DIY pizza. So that can happen. There's no way to really track. Oh, not to say there's no way, but sometimes it can be challenging to track the exact ROI when an influencer campaign goes out and how much your sales are improving. Um, Especially with food, because people might drive by. They say, "Oh yeah, I remember I saw that on social media. I'm going to stop in." That's a sale that could be directly attributed to the influencer content, but you just might not know that. It's always great to ask customers, "Oh, how did you find out about us?" Just in general. If they start saying that we saw you on an influencer's channel or we saw you on social media, that's a great indication that your program is working. Also seeing, again, what menu items are starting to spike. So if you are introducing a new menu item, or you really want to focus on a certain menu item and you want that in all the influencer content, and you start to see those sales start to rise, you can probably start to correlate that is a direct result of the influencer campaign. So I think, in terms of tracking sales and making sure that the campaigns are successful, those are great things to look at. Another way that local businesses can also work with local influencers is think outside the box. So maybe for a program that we're working on right now is there's a taco shop in town, and you can really customize your tacos. So we want to create a program where we're going to highlight a local influencer and have the preferred taco, and have it by the register or on the menu. So in a way that really celebrates the influencer, it builds community. The influencer is going to be really excited about that. And it just makes it a really fun way to incorporate it into your marketing. So it's not always about, how your product is going to be on their channel, but how are you kind of bringing them into the establishment as well?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like I've seen that before, like where they do their own hamburger or whatever dish, and obviously then it's a lot easier to track because if they order that one, they've probably seen it. But before, so I mean, as an owner, if you run a restaurant, you are super busy. You also have the admin, everything. Like finding creators must be like the last thing they want to do. How easy is it for someone with a local restaurant to actually start, finding these creators? Should they just look at their followers, or do you have any like quick tips and tricks how they can just start DMing people, or should they just hire you? Is that the best way to go? Or yeah, have you any?
I mean, going with a professional is always great. One, we have access to resource and discovery tools. This is so, we have a whole database of people that we probably worked with. And so that's always great to work with. If you do want to do sort of your own program, there's a little bit of time investment for that. During the phase of what we call discovery, we are looking for influencers to fit the program. So there's a couple of great ways to find influencers. One, you can search hashtags. So sometimes these people will use, Tucson foodie might be one, for example, here in Tucson. You can also see what other influencers are working with restaurants who might be franchised. So if a new franchise comes into town, they typically have a whole team that's supporting them, as well as a local team. And so you can see who's covering it, right? And you can kind of, there's a new one here in town. And so I looked to see, okay, who's creating content and who's visiting them. And then start to, follow them, definitely follow them from the restaurant's account. That's also really important because it shows that, you're kind of honoring the creator and you're following their content as well. You start to create your list. So discovery is something that is a huge investment of time, but that's really how you're going to get your list together. So either hiring a professional or starting to, do some of your own grassroots research.
Yeah. And do you just reach out to them and say, hey, come for free dinner? Is that the compensation you usually give? Or do you really need to pay them and give them free food? Or can you just run for the free food card?
I always say compliments will get you everywhere. So it's always great to compliment the creator on their work. I like to send an email if possible, or also send them, a direct message if their email isn't on their profile. And so once you send that message, creating a really, really nice template, which compliments them on their work. Maybe you reference a specific reel that they just did. Say, I loved the way you captured, that dish when you visited XYZ location. That usually is a great way to open the conversation. And so we'd love to have, invite you for complimentary experience or hosted experience at our establishment. We're launching a new menu. Influencers love things that are new, exclusive, and VIP. So sometimes those help get you in the door. And then it just establishes the relationship right off the bat. So if you have a low budget or maybe no budget at all and you're just getting started, those are always great ways to compliment them. Use verbiage that sort of reflects that it's not going to be a paid opportunity. That way they can decide, maybe they have, a real passion for the food that you are working with. They love Italian food. Why not? It's a fun meal. Also offer it that they could bring some friends. So that's always great. At the end of the day, maybe you're giving out a little bit more food. but you're providing, a great experience for them. And then some people might say, no, here's my media kit. And then at that point, you can decide, is this worth the investment of a certain dollar amount? And then, work with negotiating with the influencer that way. So
Hmm.
there's a couple of different approaches to it. There's plenty of influencers who are really fun to work with. And yeah, they'll come in and they want to just showcase a local restaurant, or they really enjoy the culinary experience. And then, yes, of course, there's some that, you will have to invest a dollar amount.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because that, and actually my brother is also running a food account, so I have some insights, and they usually want to just spot new places, every day, and that's kind of their thing. That's the new way of, creating new content, basically. So is it possible for these restaurants to have always on, or like have ambassadors? Does it make sense for them to come back? And then is it that you then need a menu, or are these type of food accounts even open to do a revisit? Is it common, or how can you have like is it even possible to have an ambassador program for a restaurant?
Yeah, great point. So with an ambassador program, it's always, you might want to think about it in quarters. So a lot of times you might have a seasonal menu. So if you're introducing new summer dishes, new fall dishes, um, there's a way to kind of work with them, and what are they going to cover? They're not going to want to cover the same thing. So thinking through ambassador programs, you're really going to want to think about what is the content going to look like, and then how does that program roll out? So this also might cost. You might want to put in some money behind this, because it's going to be more of a development program rather than, hey, come in, try some great dishes. We just want to make sure you have a great time. If we're then thinking, okay, you really want to be strategic in the timing, you want their content to go out a week before your new menu rolls out, then we're kind of putting certain parameters on the program that are a little bit more controlled. Once you start putting a little bit more controlled parameters, then you want to think through, okay, now we're talking about time, investment, maybe edits, things like that. So you're probably going to want to pick maybe some top performers. So maybe it's 3 or 4, or even 2 ambassadors for, an extended program. They're really going to highlight things, in your menu and throughout your marketing program. So a great way to do that is to start working with influencers, see who's performing the best, and maybe think about an extended relationship with them, while continuing to look for other accounts and influencers.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And if you think of the other industries, I think you also mentioned that you work with like hotels and those type of businesses, tourists. Is this, what's the difference there? Like, would you set up everything in the same way, or what do you have to think about if you run your own hotel?
Yeah, so with hotels, a lot of times we're going to think about categories. So we're going to be thinking about our locals because people love a local staycation. Also tourism. So what are kind of our feeder markets? So similar to the marketing that they might be running in other departments, maybe traditional print, billboards, public relations. We're going to lean into those markets as well with our influencers. So for example, if you have, I'm in Tucson, Arizona, we're going to be looking at Scottsdale, Phoenix, even Fly Market, Southern California. So we're going to want to make sure to bring in influencers from those areas, because that's where our target demographic is going to be. We're also going to look at content creators. Content creators are an extension of your content. Influencers, when we work with an influencer, we really want to reach the influencer's demographic. Thinking about hotels, because of the way that we want to show the visual of a hotel. We also like to include what we call content creators. They're a little bit different than influencers. And we're really hoping to work with them to get beautiful content. It's that picturesque worthy where you just are like, wow, I have to go to this place. And so when we're looking for those kind of creators, you are going to want to allocate some funds to boost their content, use it in paid marketing, maybe even put it in your newsletter, things like that. So we approach it a little bit differently, rather than, hey, come on down, enjoy, a great meal on us. We want to be really strategic when we're working with the hotels.
Yeah, I see, I see. But do you just fly them in? Is that always the setup? You always need to pay for the flight and obviously the stay, and then maybe something else.
Yeah. So a lot of times we look to work with our visitor associations. So we want to make sure that we're aligned with any programming that's happening in the city. So right now we're talking with visitor association about what are your priorities in, Q4 of this year, and making sure that our hotel partners are aware of that and interested and on board. So there's great resources within the community that might already be bringing influencers into town. So those for some of our hotel partners, that might be a great resource. They're already going to be here, and so that way we don't have to pay for their flights. Another idea is that, maybe they're a drive market, so you can give them contribute to their gas costs, and some of them might just want to come for the experience. If you have a 4 or 5 star hotel, and you're offering them a great staycation, they might be really into that and cover their own costs of transportation.
Yeah, that's a smart idea. Like if it's like a festival or something, and they maybe like you always see influencers talking about like I will go to, I don't know, Ultra to Miami or something like that. You already know that, then you can pick them and say, hey, if you haven't booked your hotel, let's do a collab.
Exactly. I had some programming in Las Vegas around the Super Bowl, and there are
Mm.
a lot of influencers who were in town for that. So really, we just looked and reached out to talent managers, our networks, and things like that to be able to, say, hey, if you're already going to be in Las Vegas, we'll take care of your stay. I have a talent who's currently in France right now. And so he said, oh, do you have any connections? And so we work with a hotel group in Spain. And so I said, absolutely, let's, we'll cover your flight to Spain because you're already over there, and, you can come and enjoy an amazing stay at the hotel. So there's creative ways to figure out to make your dollar go and stretch as much as it can.
Yeah. I want to be an influencer now when if you get like free tickets and all that. But you touched on something very interesting. Like you said, there's one way to work with like content creators, and it's a different approach with like influencers. Can you explain just the difference, in your opinion, and how that could look like for then, let's say, a hotel?
Yeah. So for influencers, you might see oftentimes you're going to see a lot of this, right? Hey guys, I'm checking this out and this is amazing. It's going to be that kind of content. So that is going to resonate with their fans because their fans are they kind of tune in into them like reality TV, right? They want to see where are they going, what are they eating, what are they doing, and, make decisions and purchasing um, products that they're using because they just really love this influencer. Content creation is going to be very much focused, and not always, but a lot of times those are the biggest, category differences. The content creation is going to be very much, you might see some drone footage where it's a beautiful shot of like maybe the pool. It's going to be very property focused. And so it's going to have sort of a universal appeal. Um, so those could be great differentiators between those two. A lot of times you might have, of course, content creators who also have a really big following. It's just usually, there's some differences.
Yeah. And how you said something like then you put the content underpaid. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what kind of strategies can you do with the content that you get them from the creators?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times, if you are on Instagram and you're scrolling, you might see a sponsored ad pop up. That is a targeted ad that's being served to you based off of, you typically, where you are, your age, your demographic. So we like to take the content and serve it out to the exact target demographic that we're looking to reach. So if we're in Tucson, Arizona, and we want to target Phoenix and Scottsdale, we're going to look and say, like, we want to use this content. We feel like it'll resonate with our target market. We know that our target market loves a beautiful spa experience. These are things that are important to them. They like, they want, it's summer, so we want to feature the pool and show what a beautiful pool experience this is going to be. Or, hey, it's later in the fall. We want to lean into the trail rides or horseback riding because that's kind of like a fun, experience where, You're going to get out in nature. It's 114 degrees here right now. So let's not focus on the horses in the summer. Let's think about that maybe for fall. So we really want to think about what is our topic, when are we serving it, and who are we serving it to? So those are kind of the three considerations that we're thinking about when we're serving paid
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And what I think about, like, I think it's easier through Meta running ads to be very target on areas, like even streets and stuff like that. And that is, I feel like, you know this probably better than me, but I feel like that can be a little bit hard with influencers. Like in general, like it's very broad. Like you can get a state or a city, but like going either like, because restaurants are can be very local. It's not like you can get people from the other side of the town sometimes if it's like Dallas or a big city. So then I can really see the value of just running paid ads too, but with some fun content that people can resonate with.
exactly.
And
Then
now
we
you can.
see is, short form video. Anytime I'm looking to research to go somewhere, right now, for example, I wanted to go to a theme park in Florida. So really was looking online and seeing like, what are the rides that I want to make sure to go to? How do I want to lay out my itinerary? What are the things I want to make sure not to miss? In addition to looking at their schedule online, also looking on social media to see what does that experience really feel and look like. And so that's really going to resonate with target audiences much more than maybe something that's like like a flat image, or something that is very text forward. You really, they're able to create that kind of content. It's really going to help benefit in the storytelling and attracting people to come to your establishment.
And and as a, like a final point, like for, do you have any other tips and tricks for local businesses that you always share on? Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to just get started. It's not, and if something goes wrong, it's okay. You could try something else. I think that sometimes we're always thinking that everything has to go perfectly or start perfect, or I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And it's it's all fun. At the end of the day, um, I'm in this because I love what I do. I love working with creators because it's really fun. They tell beautiful stories on social media, and the way that they capture, the content and put it together. It's just such a cool process. So just because it might be new to you, it's okay. Just get started and don't be afraid to take that first step.
Yeah. I think it's a good opportunity for all, restaurants and just local business out there, because a lot of them are maybe not the best content creators, like when it comes to just, taking photos of your food. But now with all these people can just do it for you. And best case scenario is like just invite them and give them some food. And that's what you're good at, right? Creating, cooking food. So I think this, like, if you just compare with like 50 years ago, it must have been a lot harder to just get people to your restaurants. And then it was a lot about, like, I guess, location and just providing good food, and maybe people will talk about it. But now you actually have some extra resources that you can pull in just to get new traffic and new customers. And if they love your food, they will probably come back. So I can imagine it's a lot of retention there too. Like if you just get the first customer in and they will come back, then it's like a win. Uh,
Absolutely. And it's really fun to see in the comment section. You start seeing people who say, "Oh yeah, I love that dish," and you start to build community through the content. Something that I always recommend is as a co-collab. So that means that once the influencer posts on their channel, they're going to request the restaurant on a co-collab, and so the content's also going to show up on the restaurant's feed. And so that's such a great feature. It's something that I don't recommend, require it if it's not a paid campaign with, I'm paying the influencer, but I do ask that, we would love if you can co-collab with us, because 9 times out of 10, they'll do it, because they also want to reach new audiences. So if a restaurant account, has a different audience and they co-collab, sometimes those restaurant followers will then follow the influencer. So that can always be a
that's a win-win. But then what would you say is minimum? Does it matter how many followers they have? Is it to like, can you go very big or should you go very small? What's common, would you say, if they're like very local?
Yeah, so we categorize influencers in different categories, starting with nano. Nano influencers, anything under 2,000, then you go into micro, mid-tier, and mega. So through those tiers, pricing starts to. So once you get to mega influencer, a lot of those influencers, this is their full-time job. There is content creation. So if you are getting started in your local, you're definitely going to want to look at that nano and micro level. And a lot of times that's even more beneficial because you might have someone who has, even if it's 500 followers, all the 9 times out of 10, those followers are going to be local. So those are going to be family and their friends. And it's almost like that grassroots marketing where, you hear by word of mouth, like, oh, hey, did you hear about this restaurant? It's so great. You got to try it out. You're going to be reaching people at that level when you're in, 1,000 followers. And so we've seen success even with low following. And then when you start to get a little bit bigger, typically a city or town will have sort of those established local influencers. So I know who those people are in town here. A lot of them have maybe between 10 and 25,000 followers. A lot of them are local because they cover local content. Those are people who you might want to think about in your programming are going to want a little bit more than maybe just a dish. So you might give them a $300 gift card. That's going to go a long way, just as something to visit, because a lot of those people are getting paid campaign. So it's really going to depend, their time and their value and promoting your restaurant. So there's a couple of different tiering strategies in working with different influencers. But in terms of following, you can have people who less than 1,000 followers are going to create great content, and it's like them telling their friends, family, this is a great place. You definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, which can sometimes be just a positive ROI. Like that can be enough. Like getting 10 extra people is a lot.
Those might be regulars, and then they're going to tell 10 other local people, and they're going to tell 10 other local people. So, you're really going to start sort of a nice pond effect where, you throw the rock and then it starts to.
Yeah. Nice. So and final question, how much free food do you now get then? Like how?
I get a couple of dishes a week. I think it's something that I love. I love this industry. So I grew up in the restaurant industry, so it's really fun to be able to work, with local establishments, and also, of course, large chains as well. But I would say, yeah, I have had my fair share of poke lately.
Nice. But Sabrina, it was great having you, and thanks for sharing all these insights. I hope like all the local business can, listen and take your tips and tricks. But yeah, thanks for joining.